Good morning, big brothers and big sisters. It's my pleasure this morning to address the advocacy group. My name is Rick Mystrom, and I was the founder of Big Brothers of Anchorage, which is now Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Alaska. I was also Mayor of Anchorage, and so in both of those roles, I want to speak to you this morning. I want to talk to you this morning about my role as founder and what Big Brothers and Big Sisters has meant to me and what it means to young people all over America. And then I want to talk a little bit about the importance of advocacy and give you some recommendations on how to do it. As mayor, I've certainly learned a lot about advocating to other mayors, to governors, to legislators, to city councils, and to the public. And so I think I can share some of those ideas with you this morning. But first of all, let me talk to you about Big Brothers, what it means, how I got involved, and why I started Big Brothers of Anchorage. In 1968, I graduated from the University of Colorado, where I had been involved with a program called Lads Without Dads. And I had a great experience with that program. It was very positive. So in 1969, when I moved to Los Angeles, I decided to get involved with Big Brothers of LA. And I had a little brother named Danny from Torrance, California. And I'll never forget the moment that I walked up the sidewalk to his house. And as I walked up the sidewalk, I could hear him inside saying, "Here he is, Mom, here he is." And you know from that minute on that here's a young kid who you can really influence, not necessarily by telling him things or by teaching him, but by letting him see how you act and what you do, because that's how kids learn. And I knew I had an opportunity here that I needed to really follow through with. And we had a great experience. Danny was my little brother there for about 4 years. In fact, he was an usher in my wedding, even though he was only 9 years old. And then in 1972, my wife and I packed up the money we had saved, about $750, and had a Volkswagen van, an 8-month-old baby and a dog, and we moved to Alaska. And when I got to Alaska, I wanted to get involved with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program in Alaska, or the Big Brothers program then in Alaska. And I asked people all over town, I'd like to get involved with Big Brothers. Where are they located? Where's their headquarters? What's their phone number? But I couldn't find any. And I happened to remember that the headquarters for Big Brothers Big Sisters was in Philadelphia. And so I called Philadelphia, and back in those days, that's how you did it. You didn't go on the internet, you made a phone call. And so I called information in Philadelphia, and they gave me the number of Big Brothers of Philadelphia, or Big Brothers nationwide in Philadelphia. And I told them I was just moved to Anchorage, Alaska, and wanted to be involved with Big Brothers. And they said, well, we don't have one up there. What are you doing for the next 3 years? And they didn't exactly say it that way, but they said, would you like to start one? And I said, well, you know, I'd sure think about it. And they said, we'll send you the information. We have packets, and we'll send you all this information you need to start a program up there. And so they did send it, and gosh, I only knew half a dozen people in Alaska at that time. I was brand new. But I put together a group of 4 or 5 people. We formed a steering committee, formed a board of directors from that steering committee, and then we started raising money and started developing how we were going to start the program and implement the program. And from that time on, in 1973, it has grown to be a statewide program of Big Brothers Big Sisters and influenced thousands of kids in Alaska. And it's changed the way kids have grown up in Alaska. And in the early 1990s, I was elected mayor of Anchorage. And I thought to myself that it would be very important for me to show people all around Alaska that even the mayor can make time to be a big brother. And so I got involved as a big brother in the mentor program, the school-based program. And my little brother's name was Josh, and he was a Pacific Islander, and he was in the 4th grade, and he was really struggling in school. And his teacher told me he had a lot of potential, but he was very shy. He was the biggest kid in class, but he was very shy. And that they were also studying poetry at that time. And so for the first 4 weeks, Josh and I worked on poetry. And it may sound dull to some, but it was a lot of fun. And we focused on one poem that's always been my favorite, and it was Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. And we started working at reciting that poem and memorizing it, because Josh had to stand up in front of the class in 3 weeks and recite that poem. And by the end of 2 weeks, I wasn't sure if we were going to get there. But it was about 2 days before that class time that the local TV station wanted to interview myself and Josh and talk about how the mayor could be a big brother. And as we were doing the interviews, I mentioned this poetry story. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere and spontaneously, Josh started reciting that poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. And he recited it perfectly all the way through. And then 2 days later, recited it in front of his class. And the teacher over and over has told me that poem changed that young man's life. He got confidence, he did the best job of anybody in the class, and now he's graduated from high school with a 3.7 grade point average, and he's studied medicine. And this is a kid, for one little incident, one part, and I continued on with Josh for about 4 or 5 years, but it was that poem that sort of got things going for Josh. And it can change the way kids grow up, it can change the way cities think about themselves. Big Brothers can change states. So let me talk about how I think I would recommend that you advocate for the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. There's 3 things I think I would keep in mind as you advocate for the program. One is how Big Brothers Big Sisters can change the quality of life in a city or a state. So think about quality of life. The second is the positive impact it can have on the finances, because legislators and city council people have to think financially. But think about the impact it can have on the finances of the city. And third, but certainly not last, think about the impact it can have on one individual human being, one young person, the way one young person is going to grow up and how that can change his or her life forever. So let me just start quickly on quality of life. One of the most important things for any city or state nowadays is quality of life, because people can choose to live wherever they want. And you know the statistics, and you have the statistics, that people who have big brothers or big sisters, young people who have a big brother or big sister, are much less likely to abuse drugs, less likely to abuse alcohol, and in fact less likely to abuse other people. And this is really significant for the quality of life in a city. And when you can reduce crime, when you can create good people to be the future leaders and the future participants of a city, you've changed the quality of life in that city. And the second thing is finances. Every city council person, every legislature thinks about finances. And when you can talk about the reduction of cost of police enforcement, of jail time, of ambulance time, of hospitals, and when you have positive citizens instead of potential problem citizens, you're going to change the finances of a city or of a state. But most important, don't ever forget and always conclude with talking about the importance of one single person and how it can change the life of somebody. And when you think back to those of you who have a mother or have a father, think about what you've learned just by watching them, not by what they said to you, but over and over, I'm sure, as you're an adult now, you've said to yourself, or you've said to your spouse, or you've said to your friend, boy, this is the way my parents did it. I like the way they did it. I understand that. Or maybe there's something that you don't like the way they did it, but you certainly learned from it. And what you're going to do through Big Brothers Big Sisters, and what Big Brothers Big Sisters program does, is it gives these kids somebody to watch, somebody to be like, and somebody to share their life with. And there is nothing more important than that. So I wish you the best of luck in your advocacy for the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. And I, myself, from my heart, want to say thank you for being involved with the program.